Hello there once again, my dear students. Welcome to our second lecture video. Good morning to everybody, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time you are watching this video. As before, this is the partner video of the PowerPoint presentation, which also serves as our module that I have uploaded into our GC. I hope that you have already downloaded that PowerPoint file. I hope that you have already read it, and I hope that you have already studied it as you are watching this video. So as you can see in the slide, our topic for today will be all about the different approaches to the school curriculum. So let us start by trying to understand the meaning of the term approaches. Approaches to the curriculum simply means views on the curriculum. In plain and simple language, approaches refers to what we think of the curriculum. It also refers to the ways of looking at curriculum. In other words, what is our idea? What is our concept of the curriculum? Approaches also refers to the different perspectives on the curriculum that we may have. You see, different people have different concepts, different ideas of what the curriculum is. Our idea of the curriculum, our concept of the curriculum is our perspective on the curriculum. It is our approach to the curriculum. See, approaches may also refer to the ways of conceptualizing the curriculum. How do we conceptualize it in our mind? How do we think of the curriculum? Yeah. And as you will see shortly, as we go on with our discussion, there are different ways of looking at the curriculum. There are different ways of conceptualizing the curriculum. In other words, there are different ways of approaching the curriculum. Okay. So, there are three ways of approaching the curriculum, as you can see here. The curriculum may be approached as content. It may also be approached or defined as a process, or it can be approached as a product or outcome. These conceptualizations, these perspectives, these approaches to curriculum have been provided by experts in the field. These conceptualizations of the curriculum arose from the countless researches and studies and philosophizing of educational thinkers, educational philosophers, experts in the academe. So that's how we may approach or think of the curriculum. We may think of it, we may view it, we may conceptualize it as first, as content, as a process, as a product or outcome. So tatlo, content, process, product. Those are the three ways of conceptualizing or approaching the curriculum. Sa simpleng usapan mga kapatid, ito yung tatlong paraan kung paano nating i-perform sa ating isip kung ano ang curriculum. Yan. Okay, so as already mentioned, the first approach to curriculum is to look at it or to view it, to consider it as content or body of knowledge to be transmitted by teachers and schools to the learner. if you still remember our discussion in the last video, the traditional definition or conceptualization of curriculum referred precisely to this, no? List of subjects to be covered during the term, list of topics to be taught by the teacher to the students, no? Content. Another one is to approach it as a process, meaning the curriculum can be viewed as the things that actually happen inside the classroom during curriculum implementation. Teaching approaches, teaching strategies, learning experiences of the learners or pupils, things they do in connection with their schooling, things they do in connection with their learning. So we can approach curriculum that way. And of course, we can also approach curriculum, we can think of curriculum as a product or outcome. When we think of curriculum as product or outcome, we think of the curriculum as the learning outcomes that we want, we desire for our learners. Ano ba itong desired learning outcomes? These are the knowledge, these are the skills, these are the values, these are the competencies that we want our learners to acquire or have at the end of the teaching learning engagement. These are the things that they will learn, they will absorb or internalize and actualize in the form of knowledge, skills, values, and competencies. So, again, we can view curriculum as content, meaning body of knowledge, the different topics, the different lessons taken up inside the classroom. Pwede nating tingnan ang curriculum bilang ganun, content. Second is to approach it as a process, meaning the things that we do as teachers and the things that our learners do as learners. And then, we can also view curriculum as a product, meaning the desired learning outcomes enumerated or listed as our instructional objectives. Yon. Content, process, product. These are the three ways by which we can view or approach the curriculum. Let us take this up further. So, let us go back to the first approach to curriculum. Curriculum as content or body of knowledge. As taken up or discussed in the first lecture video, the traditional view, the old view of curriculum is a list of topics or subject matter, a collection of subject matter or lessons to be taught, excuse me, to be taught by the teacher to the learners. Usually, this kind of curriculum is found in lesson plans, in syllabi, course outlines, books, references, yan. Basta collection of topics, content nga eh. For example, a primary school mathematics curriculum consists of topics on addition, multiplication, subtraction, and division. This was also discussed in the previous video. Every area of study has its own list of topics or lessons to be covered within a specific period of time, within a specific time frame. In the elementary and in high school, sa ating basic education, during our time, mayroon kaming mga grading periods. So, first grading period, second grading period, third grading period, fourth grading period. That was during our time. And our teacher would, what do you call this? Prepare a list of topics to be covered for the first grading period. Dapat yung listahan yon ng mga topics makover niya, matapos niya for the first grading period. Because there is another set of topics or lessons that she should cover for the second grading period. Another set or list of topics to be covered for the third grading period. The same is true with the fourth grading period. So, pag pinagsama-sama yon, meron siyang list of topics for the whole academic year. Ngayon naman, parang wala na yata sa DepEd, no? Parang quarterly na sila ngayon, quarterly na. So, merong first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, at saka fourth quarter. Parang pareho lang din naman. Hindi ba lang ang pangalan, no? The point of our discussion here, class, is that curriculum, especially before, no, was viewed as this list of topics to be covered within a certain period of time. That is what we have in our mind if we approach curriculum as content. Kung ang palagay natin sa curriculum ay ganon, na mga topics siya, mga lessons to be covered in a term or in a semester or in a grading period or in a quarter, then our approach to curriculum is that we approach it as content. Yan. There are some criteria suggested by Bilbao and Schiffer, no, regarding selection of knowledge or subject matter. These criteria should be followed, no, according to them, when we are selecting knowledge or subject matter. When we are planning, the first thing we do is to select the topic. Di ba ganun ang discussion natin last meeting, no? Last meeting. In the last lecture video. Curriculum development begins with a selection process. Alala ninyo yung 4 na proseso. Curriculum development is the process of selecting, organizing, implementing, evaluating, learning experiences. Ganun po ang curriculum development. So, say for example, let us use the teacher as our example, no? So, while the teacher is writing the lesson plan, or in writing the lesson plan, one of the first things that the teacher would do is to select the topic, no? Siyempre, pagkatapos niyang gumawa ng mga objectives, she would choose or select the topics. Kuminsan nga nauna yung topics, bago objectives. Ito yung mga criteria na gagamitin niya sa pagpili ng topic or subject matter. Criteria in the selection of knowledge or subject matter according to Schiffer. First is significance. It is significant if content becomes the means of developing cognitive, affective, or psychomotor skills of the learner. The word significance means importance, no? If something is significant, it is important. It has value. It can be used for something. Yeah. Significance. Education, as we can see here, is a way of preserving our culture. So if content will help achieve that purpose of preserving our culture, then content will be significant. No? It will address the cultural context of the learners. If we are teaching something that does not have any importance for anybody and for anything, it does not have any value for anybody and for anything, then the lesson has no significance at all. I don't know if there is anybody, if there is any teacher who will teach something that has no value, something that has no importance, something that has no significance at all. Siyempre, pag tayo mga teachers, we usually choose topics that the students will be able to benefit from. Meron silang mapapakinabang doon sa ating itinuturo. So if we achieve that, then our lessons, our teaching, the curriculum, the topic, the content will have significance. Yan. Meron siyang value. Content should contribute to ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization that should attain the overall purpose of the curriculum. The content, the lesson, the topic, the subject matter should contribute towards the enhancement, towards the growth of knowledge. It should contribute to the growth of ideas. It should contribute to the development and growth of concepts and principles and generalization. In other words, it should have value. Dapat meron siyang value, meron siyang kabuluhan. How does that happen? Well, sabi nga natin, first, it promotes cultural growth among our learners, It preserves our culture, and it also contributes to the growth and development of knowledge in terms of ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization. Ayon. So, pag nagawa natin yan, then our content, yung ating subject matter, yung ating topic, will have significance. Ganun din sa mga schools, If schools will teach, halimbawa, universities, schools will, excuse me again, if universities will teach courses that will advance our growth in terms of ideas, concepts, principles, and generalization, if it will enhance the general stock of human knowledge, then it is significant. The curriculum is significant. So that's one criteria to be used in the selection of knowledge or subject matter. Another one is validity, referring to the authenticity. Yun bang parang totoo siya, validity, truthfulness, veracity, authenticity of the subject matter. That's validity. Because you see, knowledge sometimes becomes obsolete. Alam niyo yung obsolete? Yun bang, it's no longer true. Parang ganito, pag sinabi mong there are 9 planets in the solar system, hindi na yun valid. It is no longer valid. Kasi hindi na siyam ang planeta sa ating solar system. 8 na lang. Because Pluto is no longer a planet, it's no longer considered part of the solar system. So knowledge can become obsolete because of new discoveries, because of new inventions, because of new knowledge. So content, remember class, we are talking about the criteria to be used in choosing content or subject matter. Kapag tayo pumipili ng magiging content, magiging subject matter, magiging topic, magiging lesson, these are the criteria. Ito yung ating mga pagbabasihan. We can use this as our guide. Yung una nga kanina ay significance. Pangalawa, validity. Meaning the authenticity, the truthfulness, the veracity of the topic or lesson or content. Sabi nga natin kanina, because of new inventions, new discoveries, new studies, new experiments, certain kinds of knowledge can be rendered obsolete. No? Sabi nga sa mga current articles ngayon, usually kasi pag tinanong ang mga bata, how many states does matter have? Usually ang sagot ng mga bata, 3, no? Solid, liquid, at saka gas. Na, traditionally, that is the answer. The 3 states of matter are solid, liquid, gas. Ngayon, meron na silang na-discover na bagong state of matter. Meron na silang yung plasma. Meron pa silang Bose-Einstein. So, nagbabago po yung knowledge because of new discoveries, new inventions. So, when we teach, when we select, when we choose content, we should be sure that our content is valid. Ang ibig sabihin ay, totoo pa rin siya, tama pa rin siya, until at present, it is no longer obsolete. No? What we teach today may no longer be true in the future, but at least at present we are teaching what is currently considered valid, true, and authentic. Ayan. Halimbawa, we teach at present that there are only 8 remaining planets in the solar system. Eh, malay natin, lumayo yung, ano ba yung susunod sa Pluto? Neptune ba? Halimbawa lang, Neptune. Umalagwa. And it becomes, what do you call this? A rogue planet. Ay di mababawasan ulit yung ating planeta. 7 na lang. Okay, so nagbabago po ang mundo, nagbabago ang universe. Everything changes, including knowledge. So, let us be very sure that what we are teaching is still valid, true, and authentic. Yan. So, validity. Dalawa na po, no? Significance, validity. Kung pipili ng topic or content, dapat meron ding utility. Meron siyang paggagamitan. It is useful. It can be used for something, no? Will the learners be able to use this outside the classroom in solving problems that they encounter daily? No? Yung mga ganon. So, if the answer to that question is yes, then the topic is useful, meaning it has utility. Utility can be relative to time. Yung isang bagay na useful before, something that is useful before may no longer be useful at present. Meron bang ganun? Halimbawa, yung mga skills na dati nating alam noon, or mga trabaho na ginagawa noon, at present, they are no longer used because of the advent of technology. No? It may have been useful in the past, but may not be useful now or in the future. Some more questions to be answered to determine whether the lesson or topic or content has utility. Will I use this in my future job? Ayan. Will our learners be able to use this skill in their future job? Will it add meaning to their lives as lifelong learners? Or will the subject matter be useful in solving current concerns? If the answer to these questions is yes, then the topic, the content we have chosen has utility, meaning it has useful. It is useful. Pero sabi nga natin kanina, no, we were saying just a while ago that as teachers, we usually teach topics, we usually teach lessons that will be beneficial to the learners in terms of knowledge, skills, values, and competencies. We usually teach things that they can use to solve problems outside, skills and knowledge that they can use to enhance life, their enjoyment of life. No? Ganun po ang mga teachers. So when we choose content or topic or lessons, let us bear this in mind. No? Significance, validity, utility. And then we have learnability. This refers to the complexity of the content. Kung gaano siya kahirap pag-aralan. Kung gaano siya kahirap matututuhan ng mga bata. Yon. The complexity of the content should be within the range of experiences of the learners. In our Prof Ed subjects, we study developmental developmental psychology, and one of the things we learn there is that at certain stages of development there are things that the child can do and there are things that he cannot do. Yan. In other words, for every stage of development, there are certain developmental tasks. What we should bear in mind when we are selecting content is that the complexity of the difficulty of the topic is within the ability, within the intellectual ability, the mental capability of the learner to learn. To simplify this, gawa tayong isang example. Halimbawa, grade 1. There are certain things that a grade 1 pupil can do and learn. And because he is a very young learner, grade 1 pa nga lang siya, his ability to learn is limited to simple tasks. So yung learnability ng lesson natin should be within his capability to absorb, to learn, and to internalize. Wala naman sigurong grade 1 teacher na magtuturo ng halimbawa trigonometry sa kanyang grade 1 class. Of course, nobody will do that, no? I am using that ridiculous example, that exaggerated example to emphasize a point that our lessons should be within the mental ability, should be within the intellectual capacity of the learner to learn. Yan. It should neither be too difficult nor too simple. Ayan. Wag namang sobrang simple. Halimbawa, nasa college ka na, spelling pa rin ang lesson nyo. Class spell dog, class spell cat. May inis ka naman noon. So the point here is that the topic or the lesson should be within the ability of the learner. That's learnability. Ayan. And then we have feasibility. Ano yung feasibility? Pag sinabi natin feasible, halimbawa, this business venture is feasible. I will invest money in it. Parang kwan siya, possible, doable. Yan ang ibig sabihin ng feasible, no? Kaya meron tayong, pag magbi-business, meron tayong mga feasibility studies. Yeah. In other words, the investors are trying to determine whether the business they are going to start can possibly give them profits, no? Can possibly be profitable. So, to determine feasibility, we can use the following as our guide questions. Can the subject content be learned within the time allowed? Pag may lesson ba tayo, kaya ba natin siyang tapusin within the time allotment, within the time allotted for that lesson? Halimbawa, lesson sa mathematics. Ilang minuto ba sa mathematics? 60 minutes? Will this lesson be finished within 60 minutes? Yeah. That's one consideration for feasibility. Halimbawa, you are planning for a quarter. Can I really finish this list of topics for one or within one quarter? Yeah. Sa DepEd yata, merong nakalista ng mga topics for every quarter. So, siguro, when DepEd officials, when curriculum experts in the DepEd prepared those curriculum guide, they were thinking of feasibility, no? Di naman sila pwedeng maglista na lang ng maglista without taking into consideration the ability of the teacher, the class, and schools to finish those topics within the time allotted for them. So yun, feasibility. Resources available and expertise of the teachers. Meron bang mga gagamitin? So, hindi lang tayo lista ng mga topics. We should also take into consideration our resources. Do we have the capability in terms of resources, no, to implement the curriculum, to take up the lesson, and to finish the content? Even the expertise of the teachers, no? Kaya bang ituro yan ang inassign mo diyang teacher? Before, it was very common for teachers to handle subjects that are not their areas of specialization, no? Kasi kulang ang mga teachers noon. There were few teachers available before. So kahit ikaw ay English major, nagtuturo ka ng iba't ibang mga subjects. Mamamayang konti, turo ka na ng social studies, turo ka ng PE, turo ka ng science, kahit hindi mo na major yung science, turo ka ng mathematics. Ganon yon sa mga high school noon. Sa elementary, teachers are expected to know a little bit about all these disciplines because teachers in the elementary generally handle all the subjects, lalo na sa lower years or lower grades. Sa primary, parang may nagko-compartmentalize na dyan, no? Nagko-compartmentalize. Parang mayroon silang areas of specialization na. Yan ang naalala ko during our time din eh. We were in grade 5. Pagdating ng time namin sa mathematics, punta kami kay Mr. De Castro. Yung aming mathematics teacher. Pagdating naman sa English, punta kami kay Mrs. Fortu. Ayan. Pagdating ng science, punta kami kay Mrs. Feriol. I think that is what they are currently doing in the elementary schools, no, at present. Parang ganun ang kanilang ginagawa. Nagko-compartmentalize sila. Well, anyway, what we are talking about here is expertise of the teachers. The point is the teachers should have adequate knowledge regarding the topic. Mahirap magturo ng isang bagay na hindi mo kabisado. Are there enough opportunities provided to learn this? These are our considerations when determining the feasibility of content or subject matter. Then interest. Will the learners take interest in the content? Why? Are the contents meaningful? And so on and so forth. interest is one of the most important factors that influence learning. The higher the level of interest towards the lesson, the more a learner will tend to learn. Yeah. The more the learner is interested towards the lesson, the more he will be motivated to learn. And it generally results to enhanced learning. So interest is a very important consideration in choosing or in selecting content or subject matter. We should see to it that they will be interested in the lessons and in the activities and learning experiences that we will prepare for them and implement inside the classroom. How do we achieve that? How can we be sure that they will be interested? Well, one way of doing it is by relating the lesson to their own experiences, by giving them opportunities to relate, to find themselves in the lesson, to emphasize to them that the knowledge they will get or acquire from these lessons and activities will be valuable to them outside. No, excuse me. That they can use these knowledge and skills in solving problems outside. No? Yung bang magagamit nila talaga sa kanilang buhay, makaka-relate sila, yun. That is one way of making them interested in the lesson. Okay, so let us go over the different criteria in the selection of knowledge or subject matter once more para ma-recap natin, no? Para ma-review natin before we proceed to the next topic. So we have significance. This refers to the importance or value of the content or topic. Validity, authenticity or truthfulness or veracity, no? Yung kanyang pagiging tama, pagiging totoo, validity. Utility, this refers to the usefulness of the topic or lesson. Dapat mayroon siyang paggagamitan. Learnability, this refers to the complexity or degree of difficulty of the lesson that is consistent with the ability of the learner to learn. Ibig sabihin, yung complexity, yung difficulty ng lesson should be within the capacity of the learner to learn. Then we have feasibility, no? Yung pagiging possible niya to be implemented, yung pagiging practical niya to be implemented. Interest, and then we have, ayun, last na pala yung interest, no? Okay. So those are the different criteria. So aside from those criteria, there are several additional guidelines, additional criteria or principles to be observed. First, the content, the topic, the lessons, the subject matter should be commonly used in the daily life of the learners. No? In daily life in general, no? Parang kwan ba? Daily experiences, no? 'Di ba? Sabi natin kanina, the more we deal with the daily experiences of the learners, the more they will tend to be interested towards the lessons and towards the different activities. The more they will see the value of the lesson because they know that they can use it outside. No? Okay, appropriate to the maturity levels of the learners. Ito yung sinasabi natin kanina na learnability. No? Learnability. The lesson should be appropriate to the maturity levels of the learners. Meaning, the lesson should not be too complex. The lesson should not be too difficult to learn. That is the reason why teachers are also advised, teachers are encouraged to simplify the lesson as possible. Di ba palagi tayong ina-advisean, let us go down to the level of the learners. Let us simplify the lesson as possible so that they will learn it, no? Because sometimes lessons can be too difficult for our learners. Grade 3, grade 4 pa lang ngayon, mahirap na yung ibang mga lessons. So our job as teachers is to simplify these lessons, these complex lessons, so that the learners are able to absorb them, to learn them, to internalize them. The lessons, the topic, the content should be valuable in meeting the needed competencies of future career. Saan ito pumapasok? Doon sa utility. No? It is useful because they can use this later when they become professionals. They can use this. Or even if they do not become professionals, when they go out of their schools, when they go out of the classroom and they go home, they go back to their respective homes, they go back to their respective barangays, the things they have learned inside the classroom can be used to solve problems, to enjoy life better, things like those. Merong gamit siya. Yan. Important in the transfer of learning to other disciplines. Okay. So when we choose topic, lessons, content, we should also consider transfer of learning. Will the child be able to use this to learn more, to learn other lessons, to learn other topics? Halimbawa, reading. We teach reading not just for the sake of reading. We know that reading is a very important skill because the child can use this in learning not just reading, not just English, not just Filipino, but he will use reading in all subjects, in all areas of study, he will use reading. Kahit hindi na English yung subject, magbabasa pa rin siya doon. Science na, kailangan marunong siya magbasa doon. So, important in the transfer of learning to other disciplines. That is another consideration or guide in the selection of content for the curriculum. Okay, let us talk about basics, the fundamental principles of curriculum content. Remember, we are still talking about content, ha? Bakit tayo tutok ng tutok sa content? If you still remember, this is one of the approaches to curriculum. Alala niyo yung topic natin kanina? Approaches to curriculum. First, curriculum can be approached as content. Second, curriculum can be approached as process. Third, curriculum can be approached as product. Dito pa lang po tayo sa number 1. Curriculum as content. Yan. Kaya tayo nagdi-discuss ng mga ganito. So far, we have already discussed the different criteria to be used in choosing content. Alala pa man natin? Validity, significance, learnability, feasibility, interest, utility, and what's the other one? Ito yata yun eh. Nakalimutan ko na yung isa. Balikan nyo na lang sa file. In addition to those criteria, we were also given several guidelines, no? Yung katatapos lang natin sa previous slide. Okay, so let's talk about this basics, fundamental principles of curriculum content. So nasa content pa rin tayo. Medyo mahaba-haba pong usapan ito ha. Nasa content pa lang tayo. Wala pa tayo sa process, wala pa tayo sa product. Okay. So let's proceed. Palma in 1952, naalala po ninyo si Jose Palma? Jose Palma is the one who gave us our definition of curriculum. The one that we are using, the one that we are adapting for this course. Para sa ating subject na ito, ang definition ng curriculum na ating ginagamit is the definition given by Palma. It is up to you when you finish taking up this course. If you want to adopt other definitions, that will be up to you. No? Depende na yan sa iyo. But for our course, we will adopt and use the definition of Jose Palma. Ano nga ulit yun, yung definition ni Jose Palma? Curriculum is the sum of all the content, resources, and experiences purposely selected, organized, and implemented by the school. Kung gusto niyo pang idugtong yung later part, in pursuit of its mandate as an institution of learning and human development. Pwede rin. Pwede rin hindi na. Pero mas maganda kung buo siya, no? Kung kompleto. So, Palma gave us these fundamental principles of curriculum contents, namely balance, articulation, sequence, integration, continuity, at saka meron pang idadagdag mamaya na isa pa, yung S. Basics yan eh, yung ating acronym, basics. Yeah. The previous topic refers to criteria. Yung mga validity kanina, yung mga significance, yung mga interest, yung mga utility, criteria yon. Ano ang ating pagbabasihan, pagpipili ng content, ng topic, ng subject matter? Sila yon. Ito naman, fundamental principles of curriculum contents. We can view this as the characteristics that content must have. Yung kanina mga criteria, ito mga characteristics. Pag nakapili na, yung napili natin should have balance, it should have articulation, dapat siya ay mayroong sequence, mayroong integration, mayroong continuity. Yan. So let us see, balance. The first principle of curriculum content according to Palma is balance. Meaning content should be fairly distributed in depth and breadth. Dapat yan ay mayroong letter D, no? B-R-E-A-D-T-H, breadth. Para bang kwan? Parang ingaw, parang depth. Depth is the noun form of deep. Pag adjective, deep. Pag noun, depth. Ganon din dito. Pag adjective, broad, malawak. Pag noun, breadth. Breadth. Kaya dapat mayroong letter D dyan, no? This will guarantee that significant content should be covered to avoid too much or too little of the contents needed within the time allocation. Balance. There should be equal distribution of topics within the allotted time period. Halimbawa, ano ba ang magandang example dito? Halimbawa sa mathematics, 4 fundamental operations. So, kunyari lang, dapat yan ay matapos sa first quarter. This is just an example, no? I don't know if that is really what they do in DepEd. na yung 4 fundamental operations ay para sa isang quarter lang. I'm just using this example to illustrate the concept of balance. So, 4 no? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Pang first quarter. So, dapat yan ay balanse. Meaning, pareho ang dami at haba ng lesson sa addition, pareho ang dami at haba ng lesson sa subtraction, multiplication at addition. Ibig sabihin, at the end of the quarter, the learner will get equal weight, kung pwedeng timbangon kag knowledge sa baga class ay equal weight and equal depth of knowledge in terms of the 4 fundamental operations. Para bang yung kanyang knowledge doon sa 4, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, magkakapantay-pantay. Hindi yung napakagaling niya sa addition, hindi marunong ng division. Kasi halimbawa, ilang months ba ang isang quarter? Halimbawa, 2 months lang. So, 1 month for addition. Yung natitirang 1 month, sabi ng teacher, parang hindi ko matatapos ito. Lumampas yata ako. So, arali-ralion niya ngayon. No? The 3 remaining topics will be taught in haste. No? So, rapid teaching na. A little discussion, few examples, next topic na. So, at the end of the quarter, the child knows a lot about addition, but not so much about the 3 remaining fundamental operations. So, walang balance. So, pag sinabing balance, equal yung kanyang breadth at yung depth, yung lalim, yung pagiging complicated ng lesson. The complexity of the lessons presented are equal in weight as well as the breadth, yung kanyang scope. Napakaraming topics about addition, napakaraming mga examples. But not so much in the remaining operations. Walang balance doon. So pag sinabing may balance, magkakahawig-hawig sila. I am not saying that they will be given exactly the same number of minutes na bibilangin mo pa down to the last second. Ang ibig lang sabihin pareho yung magkakahawig-hawig yung time allotment, yung activities, exercises. Sa bagay, depende yan sa complexity of the lesson. In terms of complexity, division is a little bit more complex than the first 2, yung addition at saka subtraction. The same thing with multiplication. So, ang ibig lang sabihin dito, basta pagkatapos ng mga topics na yon, they should have a balanced, they should have sort of equal skills, equal ability, equal knowledge in terms of the 4 fundamental operations. Yung natutuhan niya ay magkakahawig-hawig in terms of weight, no? That is what is meant by balance. So, halimbawa sa English, English is divided into different areas or topics. Mayroong grammar, mayroong literature. So, halimbawa, doon sa skills niya, listening, speaking, reading, writing. So, yung pagtuturo should be balanced again. Hindi yung napakagaling niyang magbasa, pero hindi marunong magsalita. Walang balance doon. Diba? Halimbawa sa ibang subjects, halimbawa ay sa history or social studies. Social studies is also divided into areas, no? I don't know if that is what they do still at present, no? Kasi nung time namin ay dinidivide yan sa, meron kami noong current events, merong geography, meron kung ano-ano. So, at the end of the grading period or at the end of the academic year, balance yung nakukuha ng bata. ng learner. He knows something about current events, he knows something about geography, he knows something about history, he knows something about the Philippine government, he knows something about the Constitution. Balanse baga. Hindi yung napakagaling niya sa isang area and then he does not know anything about other areas. Walang balance po kapag ganon. That is what I'm trying to say here. No? So yun po ang ibig sabihin ng balance. And content or the subject matter must have balance. That is one of the principles, that is one of the characteristics that content must have. Dapat siya ay balanse. It should have balance in terms of complexity, in terms of depth, in terms of scope or breadth. Yan. Articulation. Okay. Ang ibig sabihin ng articulation, yung continuity, yung connectedness of the topic. Articulation. Connectedness. The lesson in grade 1 will be connected or related to the lesson in grade 2, then to lessons in grade 2 will be connected or related to lessons in grade 3. Sila ay magkakaugnay-ugnay, articulated. This will assure no gaps or overlaps in the content. Walang gaps, walang overlap. Yun bang naituro na dati, ituturo ulit. Overlap. Or itinuturo sa ibang subject, itinuturo din sa isa pa uling subject. Sila ay nag-o-overlap. Seamlessness is in content as desired and can be assured. Seamlessness in content is desired and can be assured if there is articulation in the curriculum. Seamlessness, yun bang wala ngang gap. Pag sinabing seamless kasi walang gap eh. Let's go back to mathematics. How can I simplify this? Yun bang marunong ng addition, marunong ng multiplication, and then it stops there. Mayroong gap siya doon sa knowledge niya kasi hindi siya marunong ng two remaining skills or operations. So mayroong gap. To avoid that, there should be articulation. Yun yung the progressive advancement of lessons should be characterized by connectedness or relatedness to one another. Magkakaugnay-ugnay sila. Vertically or horizontally. Pag vertical articulation, habang siya ay pa-progress in terms of year or grade, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, pataas yun. Vertical yun. The lessons are still interconnected. They are still related to one another. Lesson sa grade 1, lesson sa grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade, and so on and so forth, magkakaugnay-ugnay lahat. Kaugnay-ugnay lahat. Yung horizontal articulation, this refers to the connectedness of the lessons in the same year level. Connectedness of the lessons in the same grade. Lalo na kung magkakahawig-hawig ang mga disciplines. Especially if there is similarity or connectedness in disciplines. Halimbawa nga, yung binibigay kong example kanina sa social studies, which is divided into smaller areas of study, those smaller areas should be connected to one another. Parang ginawa na ito dati, yung a subject was segmented into 5 components. Yung makabayan yata yun, yung makabayan. 5 components yun noon eh. So, 5 areas or 5 components lumped together into one subject called makabayan. Dapat sila magkakaugnay-ugnay in some way or form para mayroong articulation. Horizontal articulation. Yun namang vertical articulation, the lessons from grade 1 up should be connected to one another. The lessons in the lower grades should be the stepping stone for the next lesson in the next grade level. Kasi habang tumataas yung kanilang grade level, the lessons also increase in complexity. The lessons also increase in difficulty. So, it is important that the learners learn the fundamental skills, the fundamental competencies in the lower grades. Because they will use those skills, they will use those knowledge in more complex tasks, in more complex activities in the higher grades. Kapag napabayaan yan sa baba, it would be very difficult for them to cope with the tasks and activities in the higher grades. Halimbawa, pagbabasa. Hindi natuto magbasa sa grade 1 at saka grade 2. What will happen to the learner when he gets to, say, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6? He does not even have the fundamental skill of reading. So, dapat yan magkakaugnay-ugnayan lahat. Dapat yung mga fundamental skills or foundational skills should be taught and acquired by the learner in the lower grades. Kasi yun ang gagamitin niya eh. Yung mga lessons, ganun din. Fundamental operations, then later they will perform more complex mathematical or numerical computations habang tumataas yung kanilang grade level. So dapat mayroong articulation. Content complexity, yung hirap, yung difficulty of the lessons or content progresses with the educational levels. Sa higher grades, meron pa rin namang mga additions eh. Pero ang ina-add na nila doon ay mga tig 5 digits, 6 digits, things like those. At saka may kasama ng letters, no? Algebra na sila. Mahirap pa naman ang mathematics, no? So that's articulation, no? The second principle. The first one is balance. This one is articulation. Then another principle, sequence. Remember, meron tayong sinusunod na acronym, no? Yung basic. Pag sinabing sequence, no, this refers to the logical arrangement of the content. Content should be properly ordered or sequenced. They should be properly arranged in a logical order so that they can be easily learned, no? Meron kasi mga lessons na pag rinumble mo, merong effect, no? There is an adverse effect on learning. It is better to learn. It is easier for us to learn if the lessons are organized in a logical manner. From simple to complex, from past to present, things like those. Now, these are ways of organizing content. Di naman pwedeng grade 1 pa lang ay mag-umpisa na tayo doon sa napakahirap na mga lessons. Naturally, we have to start with the simple ones. And then we progress to more complex or more difficult topics or lessons. So, dapat yan sila nasa sequence. Dapat sila ay na-arrange in such a way that the learner will not lose his interest. Kasi if we begin with very difficult topics, if we begin with very complex lessons, the learner may be intimidated by them and he may no longer be interested to learn. Kasi sa tingin niya napakahirap kaagad eh. So what do? We start with simple ones. Yan. Ito nga In both ways, the pattern is usually from easy to complex. From what is known to the unknown. Yan. As teachers, we are advised to always try to relate the lesson to the experiences of the learners, so that they can relate to the lessons. They can relate to the topic and activities. Because that is what they see in their daily life. So makikita nila doon yung kanilang sarili na yung lesson, ginagawa nila sa labas. Nararanasan nila. They experience it on a daily basis. So from that known experience, the teacher will lead them to the unknown topic, the unknown concept. Then later, that unknown concept will become known. That's learning. Yung dating unknown will become known. So, we will start with the known first. Yung dati muna nating alam so that we can relate to the lesson. Then, yung isang bagay na hindi natin alam ay malalaman natin. Known, unknown, known. Yan. Parang ganito. Parang concept of gravity. Ito ang paborito kong example sa mga sa klase, sa lecture. The concept of gravity is rather complex for young children, small children to understand and to absorb. Lalo na kung walang access sa bahay, walang TV, no magazines, no books. So they do not have ways or opportunities of seeing the solar system, even in pictures, even on TV, even in magazines. Wala talaga silang idea. Pero marunong silang maglaro ng magnet. Because magnets are very common toys for young children. Excuse me again. So mag-umpisa tayo doon sa known. Yun ang known sa kanila kasi that is what they experience daily, almost daily, yung paglalaro ng magnet. That is their actual experience. Wala silang idea kung ano yung mga gravity, kung ano yung mga heavenly bodies. Ang alam nila, magnet. So let us start with that. Yun ang ating known. Ang unknown ay yung gravity at saka heavenly bodies. So by using their experiences pertaining to magnets, we can easily introduce the concept of attraction. One body attracting another. Magnets class, ano bang nakita nyo ano bang nangyari doon sa magnet na pinaglaruan nyo? Ma'am, nung dinikit ko sa bakal ay dumikit, nung nilapit ko sa bakal ay dumikit siya bigla, ma'am. Or, yung pako, ma'am, ay hinila niya. Ayan. Mag-introduce ka na ngayon ng concept of attraction between bodies. So yun ang known. Papunta ka na ngayon sa unknown. Alam nyo ba class that the same principle done by magnets is also the same principle done by it is the same principle that governs the movement of planets. Ayan. They attract one another. And this attraction is just exact to keep them rotating or to keep them orbiting in their respective orbits. To keep them steady, to keep them remain or stay in their respective orbits. Yung ating mga planeta, nag-a-attrakan din sila yan. Kaya timpladong-timplado yung kanilang mga pwersa lang, kaya hindi sila nagbabanggaan. But the same principle that govern the attraction of magnet and metals, that same principle govern the movement of planets. Itapon mo yung lapis mo sa taas, bumabagsak, di ba? Is ma'am, tinapon ko, bumagsak ma'am Ang principle ang pwersa na nagpabagsak dyan, the force that pulled it towards the earth is just the same force that pulled the nail towards the magnet. Magkapareho lang yan, class. So, the knowledge was arrived at using that principle, no? Known, magnets. Yung unknown, gravity. By using the known, the unknown becomes known. Yan. So, how do we do that? By sequencing lessons, by ordering, by arranging lessons, topic, or content in a logical manner. Meron siyang tamang pagkakasunod-sunod. No? That is sequence. Ano nga ulit yung mga common arrangements? From easy to complex. From simple to difficult. Known to unknown. From current to something in the future. Pwede ka rin mag-umpisa from the past to the present. Halimbawa, sa social studies or history, you will go back in time and then trace the development of events up to the present. Yeah, sequence yan. Then we have integration. Content in the curriculum does not stand alone or in isolation. From the word integrate, when we integrate something into something else, we fuse them. We put them together, in other words. Content should be infused in other disciplines whenever possible. Content should be integrated into one another as much as possible. If it is possible to integrate a lesson in English with science, if it is only possible, then we should do it, no? Or science with other subjects like values education. Pwede naman yan ganyan eh. Mathematics with, say, economics. Literature with Filipino. Filipino with social studies. Halimbawa ganito. Sa social studies, ang pinag-aaralan ay buhay ni Rizal. Just coordinate with the Filipino teacher na ang iti-take up niya sa Filipino ay tula ni Rizal. Sa aking mga kababayan. Kababayan ba yun or kababata? Sa aking mga kababayan. So, while the learners in one class, halimbawa, yung mga bata sa social studies nila, sa history, are studying about the life of Rizal or the life of the Filipinos during the time of Rizal. In Filipino, they are taking up a poem written by Rizal. So, their learning in both subjects will be reinforced by each other. Yan, integration. Halimbawa, sa English at saka sa science. Diba sa English, it's very common in English class for learners to give examples of sentences. Yan. So instead of using sentences taken from out of nowhere, mga sentences that are disjointed, sentences that are not connected with one another, let us use sentences from science. Tuturo ka ng subject-verb agreement sa English. Ang gamitin mong sentences galing sa science. Sabi ng teacher, okay class, this morning we are going to use the correct usage of is and are. Gagamitin mong mga examples galing sa science. Photosynthesis is, are the process by which plants manufacture their food. Ano ang tamang sagot, Juan? Ma'am, are. Bakit are, Juan? Ma'am, kasi photosynthesis ending in S. Doon ka na magtuturo ng subject-verb agreement, ng correct usage of is and are. Juan, photosynthesis is a singular word although it ends in S. Kasi yan ay process to. So, because it is singular, it should take a singular verb. Dapat ay is. Ganun po ba, ma'am? Ganun yun, Juan. Lamat, ma'am. You're welcome. So, you see, the lesson in English is about the use of is and are, no? Subject-verb agreement. Ang kinukuhang mga sentences galing sa science. So that's also integration. So, we can integrate lessons from different subjects because, di ba sabi nga natin, lessons are interconnected in some way. You know? Lessons should not be taught in isolation. Yun bang nakahiwalay siya na naka-compartmentalize. Yan. So that's integration. Then continuity. Okay, this is related to articulation. This refers to the continuous flow of content. Continuous flow. As it was before to where it is now. So, continuity. If there is articulation, then it would be easy for the content to have continuity. Kasi nga, magkakaugnay-ugnay na sila. Constant repetition, reinforcement, and enhancement of content are all elements of continuity. Especially in the DepEd nowadays, no, where we use the spiral curriculum. Yung spiral curriculum, one of the characteristics is you teach the same subject from year to year, but the lessons increase in complexity or difficulty. Yun po ang ibig sabihin ng spiral curriculum. Para ganito po. During our time, halimbawa science, during our time now when we were in high school, in first year we had general science. Yun ang science subject namin noon sa first year general science. When we were already in the sophomore, second year na kami, our science subject was biology. When we were in third year, it was chemistry. When we reached fourth year, it was physics. So the underlying principle is, the assumption is, halimbawa sa biology. So we study nothing else in science in second year except biology. Different plants, different animals, scientific names. Ano kung yung mga scientific names ang pinaka kinainisan namin? Memorize this, memorize that. So wala nang ibang pinag-aralan sa science, puro sa biology. So pagkatapos namin ng second year, the assumption is, okay, you have already taken up biology, ha? It is expected that you already know everything about biology. Parang ganun ba? So tapos ka na sa biology, third year na tayo, so third year na kayo, so chemistry na tayo. So in third year, we did not study anything but chemistry. Ganon din sa fourth year, we did not study anything else but physics. So, second year, biology, third year, chemistry, fourth year, physics. Linear po yon, linear curriculum. Sa spiral curriculum, there are lessons in biology, chemistry, physics, general science, first year pa lang. So sa first year, there are lessons in biology, chemistry, physics, but they are the basic concepts. They are the basic topics. Yung pinakasimple lang muna, definition of biology, definition of chemistry, definition of physics, states of matter, yung mga kingdoms, mga animalia, kung ano-anong mga forces sa physics, things like those, yung pinaka-basic lang muna. So pagdating niya ng second year, meron siya uling lessons sa biology, sa chemistry, sa physics, at saka sa general science. But this time, the lessons are more complex. The lessons are more difficult. So magkapareho yung lessons, magkapareho yung subjects na covered sa first year at saka sa second year. But they differ in difficulty. They differ in complexity. Mas mahirap doon sa second year ng konti. Pagdating ng bata ng third year, the same disciplines are there. The same subjects can be found doon sa science. Merong lessons about biology, merong lessons about chemistry, merong lessons about physics. But this time, the lessons are already difficult and complex. Mahirap na. Mas mahirap doon sa lesson nila noong second year at lalong mas mahirap doon sa lesson nila sa first year. But the same subjects, the same disciplines. Mayroong biology, mayroong physics, mayroong chemistry. Mas mahirap lang ang mga lessons. So pagdating niya ng fourth year, ganun pa rin ang mako-cover sa subject na science. May lesson about biology, may lessons about chemistry, may lessons about physics, meron sa general science, but more complex than the first 3 grade levels. So pare-pareho yung tinitake up from first year to fourth year sa junior high kunyari, but they increase, they progress in complexity. Yun pang ibig sabihin ng spiral curriculum. And that is one way of achieving continuity in our content. Yung magkakaugnay-ugnay, magkakadugtong-dugtong, so that the lessons flow seamlessly or flow continuously. Walang gaps, walang mga overlaps katulad ng na-discuss natin kanina when we were talking about articulation. Okay? So here's another one, scope. Yan ang tamang spelling ng breadth. Hindi yung katulad kanina, walang letter D. I-check ninyo yung mga files ninyo ha, yung mga PowerPoint presentations. I just committed an error in typing that word. So yung scope, yung kanyang sakop. Yung kanyang sakop. Scope, sakop. Yung kanyang sakop. The overall sweep of the content. Breadth, yung kanyang lawak, and depth, yung kanyang lalim. Yung breadth, yung lawak ng nako-cover, kung gaano karaming topics ang na-include. Yun namang depth, yung kanyang complexity of attack. Gaano kalalim pag-aaralan yung isang topic. Yan. Scope is vital to the curriculum. This consists of all the content, topic, learning experiences comprising the curriculum. Kung minsan kasi sobrang dami ng pinag-aaralan and the learner is overwhelmed by all of these topics, lessons, activities, requirements. Katulad po ngayon, no? Puro module sa mga bata. Naku, I have already heard many complaints from learner. Naku, module na naman, malulunod na kami sa module. So, bahagi po yan ng scope. Gaano karaming lessons ang ating ibibigay sa mga bata. And how deep are we going to dig into these lessons? Gaano ka komplikado siya natin pag-aaralan. Ayan. That's scope. So of course, as teachers, we should always see to it that scope is the scope of the lesson is not too much for the learner. Parang kahawig ito kanina doon klasa, learnability. Learnability refers to the complexity of the lesson. Kung gaano siya kahirap, kung gaano siya komplikado. But here, kung gaano naman siya kalawak at kalalim. But if the scope is too much for the learner, there is no longer opportunity for learning. As I have said just a while ago, the learner will be overwhelmed with the lessons. Kumbaga, ang isang analogy is, the learner will be drowned by the lessons and by the activities and requirements. Para bang siya ay malulunod sa dami ng itinuturo, sa dami ng hinihingi, sa dami ng pinagagawa. So, that's scope. Let us see to it that the scope of the lessons is within, the scope is within the ability of the child to absorb, within the resources of the child, the school, and the teacher. Let us remember, more content is not always better. Hindi yung turo tayo ng turo. Napakarami, we do not notice that it is no longer relevant, it is no longer being learned or absorbed by the child. Kasi nga parang na siya, overwhelmed na siya. Kahit tayo halimbawa sa mga meetings, sa mga seminars, sa mga trainings natin, bigyan tayo ng napakaraming topics, lessons, activities. We cannot absorb everything within one day. Ganon din po ang ating mga learners, no? Ito yung tinatawag nating cognitive overload. We are giving them too much to process. We are giving them too much mental tasks. Hindi nila ma-absorb, hindi nila ma-process kasi sobrang dami. Yon, yung scope. So, let's go back now. These are the basic or fundamental principles of curriculum content according to Palma. Content in the curriculum should be guided by, ito yung ating principles. B for balance, A for articulation, S for sequence, I for integration, C for continuity, and S for scope, or in short, basics. Yan. Fundamental principles of curriculum content. Okay? Okay po, let us proceed. Okay, curriculum as a process. This is the second approach to curriculum, no? If you still remember. We are talking about the approaches to curriculum. We have just finished the first one. So, konting review ulit. Approaches to curriculum includes content, process, and then product. Meaning, we can think of the curriculum as content, process, and product. We can view curriculum. We can conceptualize curriculum as content, process, product. So, tapos na po natin yung una. No? We have just finished discussing curriculum as content. Now, let's talk about curriculum as a process. When we think of curriculum as content, ito yung mga lessons, mga topics, mga subject matter. But when we think of curriculum as a process, what we have in mind are the different activities and experiences performed by both teachers and learners inside the classroom. These are the different teaching and learning activities carried out or performed by the teacher and the learners. Meaning, these are the things that we actually do during the process of teaching and learning. If the content is the cookbook, process is the ways of cooking. No? This is a very good analogy for the approaches to curriculum. Yung recipe, yung process ba sa pagluto, including the ingredients, no? Everybody is familiar with this, no? Recipe. So, balik tayo doon sa ating example dati. Recipe for adobong manok. So, nakalagay doon ang mga ingredients. Chicken, oil, vinegar, salt, and so on and so forth. Nakalista yan lahat. Then below that is the process of preparing the steps. Yan. Of preparing that particular recipe. So, step number 1, wait for the owner of the chicken to leave his house. Yun ang step number 1. Joke lang. yun ang content, no? Yung cookbook, recipe na cookbook, the recipe is the content while the ways of cooking is the process. Yung paraan ng pagluto, maraming paraan ng pagluto ang mga pagkain eh. Used in analogy of a recipe na cookbook, a recipe is the content. Yung recipe, yung nakalista doon na ingredients plus yung nakalistang steps or process. Yung actual na pagluluto ng adobong manok, that's the process. So if we are going to apply that analogy in curriculum, yung mga nakalistang topics or subject matter sa mga lesson plan, sa mga syllabus, sa mga course outline, that's the content. Yung actual na pagtuturo, that's the process. Actual teaching and learning, that's the process. This is another way of looking at curriculum. This is another way of conceptualizing curriculum. Process, no? So content and process. Okay. The classroom is only part of the learning environment where the teacher places action using the content to achieve an outcome. Curriculum as a process gives life to the curriculum. As already mentioned before, no matter how well written a curriculum may be, if it is not actually implemented, if it is not actually taught, it's still useless in terms of student learning, which is the ultimate goal of the curriculum. The be-all and end-all of curriculum is learning. So the process, as already mentioned, gives life to the curriculum. The teachers, the learners, the activities, the experiences, these things and these people make the curriculum alive. It is through these processes, it is through these experiences, it is through these activities that the product will be achieved. Yung desired outcomes, yung learning, can only be achieved through these processes. Walang matututong bata kung puro sulat lang sa lesson plan, walang actual teaching. So the curriculum is the one, curriculum becomes alive through the different teaching and learning activities and experiences that happen or occur inside the classroom. All of these things that we do as teachers and everything that our learners do as learners, we put them all together, we get curriculum as a process. So, okay. So, katulad kanina, sa curriculum as content, we were given certain principles. Let us see what principles we have under this topic, curriculum approach as process. So first, curriculum process in the form of teaching methods or strategies are means to achieve the end. Curriculum starts with a plan. These plans are usually put on paper. Yung mga objectives, mga lessons, nakalagay lahat yan sa plano, including the list of all topics and subject matter to be covered. Content. That content, that curriculum, can only become alive through the different experiences and activities that the learners will perform inside the classroom. That curriculum can only become alive if the teacher will actually teach or implement the plan. And through the actual teaching and learning activities and experiences, the desired outcomes or the objectives are achieved or attained. So the curriculum as a process is a means. Isa siyang paraan. It is a way of achieving an end. Ano po yung end? What is the ultimate goal? What is the ultimate purpose? Yun po kasi ang ibig sabihin ng salitang end sa sentence na ito. Goal, purpose, target, objective. That is the meaning of the word end in this sentence. So how do we achieve that? Through the different activities we perform inside the classroom. The teaching strategies employed or used by the teacher, the different approaches, the different techniques. On the part of the learners, there are certain activities and experiences that the teacher has planned for them. So pag ginawa nila yon, both teachers and learners, we put them all together, we get process. Through this process of curriculum implementation, the objectives are achieved. The plan is put to action. So, content, plano. Kasi nandun yung mga listahan ng mga topics at saka subject matter. Process is the implementation phase or stage. The curriculum becomes alive. No? So, yun po. Strategies are means to achieve the end. Curriculum as a process is a means. It is a way of achieving the goal or the objective, the end. We have already been told before that there is no single best teaching method. A method becomes effective a method is effective depending on the kind of lesson you have, the kind of learners you have, the kind of environment you have, the kind of resources you have. So whatever works for the situation you are under in, that is the most effective teaching method for you for that particular time. The effectiveness of the lesson, the effectiveness of the teaching strategy will also depend on the desired learning outcomes, the learner, support materials, and the teacher himself or herself. So there are different factors, there are various variables that affect or determine the effectiveness of a teaching method. There is no single teaching method. If there is, then we will teach that in teacher education institutions. No? So walang ganon. The curriculum process should stimulate the learner's desire to develop the cognitive, affective, psychomotor domains in each individual. Well, this is usually what we do as teachers. No? As a matter of fact, when we write our lesson plans, when we write our syllabi, when we write our course outlines, we are advised to include pedagogical or instructional objectives pertaining to the three domains of learning, namely cognitive, affective, and psychomotor domains. But we usually do this only if it is not forced, no? If it comes naturally. Halimbawa sa mathematics, mahirap naman kung every meeting mayroon kang psychomotor. Ano naman ang igagalaw or gagawin sa mathematics? So usually ang marami niyan sa physical education. But in terms of cognitive and affective domains, we are advised to include objectives in those domains, no? Huwag puro cognitive, huwag puro affective, dapat ay balanse. So kung hindi siya pilit, no, if it is not forced, then we are advised to include all three domains, no, if it is possible. Pero usually sa non-physical education subjects, yung mga subjects na hindi naman PE, we usually include cognitive and affective objectives. Okay. So dapat kasama yung mga domains. Okay, let's continue. Nako, biglang may nagdulmar doon sa sa labas. I don't know if the microphone can pick up the sound of the chainsaw. Sana hindi, no? Para hindi maingay itong ating recording. So here's another one we should remember, no? In terms of principles in approaching curriculum as process. In the choice of method, learning and teaching style should be considered. Just like teachers who have their own way of teaching, learners have their own way of learning. They have their own way of processing information. Yun po ang ibig sabihin ng learning style. The way by which learners process information. So as much as possible, our teaching style should be consistent with. Our teaching style should be congruent with the learning styles of our learners. The two, meaning teaching style and learning style, should match. No? They should match. One way of doing this is providing varied activities in our classrooms. Of course, it's not always easy to do that. As teachers, we tend to prepare only one set of activities for the entire class, only one set of learning experiences for the entire class, dahil nga sa sobrang dami ng trabaho. No? But if we can provide varied experiences or learning activities for our learners, it would be a very good thing. It would also provide opportunities for our class, for our learners who have multiple intelligences, to learn according to their own preferences. No? So maganda yung ganun, if possible. Okay? Well, this was already taken up a while ago. Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Whatever they learn, whatever our students or pupils learn from us and from the activities we prepare for them, those learnings will fall on one of these domains of learning. Papatak siya sa isa sa mga yan. It's either cognitive, affective, or psychomotor. So as already mentioned before, if it is possible for us to include objectives that will fall on these three domains, then that will be a very good thing. No? If it is not forced, no? If it comes naturally to the lesson, then it would be a very good thing to have objectives for all three domains. Kung di naman pwede at pilit na yung psychomotor or other domains for that matter, wag nating pilitin. No? If possible, mas maganda na meron para sa cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. As already mentioned, there is no single best teaching method. There is no teaching method where we can say, this is the best for all kinds of lessons, for all kinds of learners, for all kinds of classroom situations. There is no method that we can consider as the best for all learners, for all classroom situations. The effectiveness of a method depends on the kind of learners, the kind of lesson, the kind of situation you have, the kind of resources you have, the kind of the learning, the total learning environment. So whatever method we use, as long as it will result to the learning outcomes, then that is the best method for that particular encounter. That is the best method for that particular engagement. Why? Because the learning objectives, the desired learning outcomes have been achieved or attained. Why? The effective, di ba? As already mentioned, the curriculum becomes alive, no? Inside the classroom or wherever there is teaching and learning. Because this already refers to the actual implementation of the curriculum. Through these processes of teaching and learning, the curriculum is operationalized, no? It it becomes an actual curriculum. It's no longer a plan. It's not just a design. It is already being put into action, no? So teaching and learning are very important processes in curriculum. Okay. Okay, here's the third one. Paano tayo nakarating sa letter C? Ano ba yung letter A? Again, remember, we are talking about approaches to curriculum, ways by which we may view or think of the curriculum, ways of conceptualizing curriculum, ways of interpreting curriculum, ways of looking at curriculum. So the first one is content. So we can look at curriculum as content. We can consider curriculum as content. No? We can conceptualize curriculum as content. The second one is process. We can conceptualize, we can think of, we can consider curriculum as a process. In addition to that, we can also approach curriculum as a product. We can think of curriculum as a product. Well, the product that we are referring to refers to the different knowledge, skills, values, and competencies that the learners acquire or derive or gain from the learning experiences planned, prepared, implemented by the teacher for the class, for the learners. Yun ang tinutukoy natin ditong product. The learning objectives, the instructional objectives prepared by the teacher for the class to achieve. Kapag na-achieve yun, kapag na-attain, then that's curriculum. The product, the result. Di ba kanina mayroon tayong plano, mayroon tayong process. Ngayon, siyempre dahil may process, we are expecting a product. May process eh. So we are expecting a product. What is that product? A learner who has learned, a learner who has absorbed, internalized, and preferably actualized the knowledge, skills, values, and competencies enumerated in the objectives. Yung mga instructional goals, yun ang product natin. Yung mga skills, knowledge, and values na na-acquire ng bata. What is the reason why we want to achieve or attain these objectives? Because we want the students, the learners, to undergo significant changes in their behavior. We want them to undergo positive changes in their behavior, in their intellectual, social, physical, emotional, spiritual behavior. We want them to undergo positive changes. Yun usually ang mga objectives eh. That is why most, if not all, intended outcomes, if not most, if not all objectives, are statements of change. They are a statement of change to take place or to happen among the learners. At the end, halimbawa, at the end of the 60-minute period, the student should be able to multiply 2-digit numbers. It is a statement of change. Kasi dati, hindi siya marunong mag-multiply ng 2-digit numbers. After the encounter, after the engagement, after the teaching-learning process, he already knows how to multiply 2-digit numbers. So it's a change. For the better, it is a positive change. Ganyan po ang mga educational goals and objectives, no? They are statements that describe the positive change, the desirable change that we want to happen or take place within and among our learners. Here's another example. At the end of the 60-minute period, the student should be able to demonstrate appreciation of halimbawa trees. So bago mag-umpisa ang klase, wala silang appreciation for trees. Kala nila, trees, kahoy, no big deal. Nandyan sila. They are there in nature. But after the lesson, you present to them the importance of trees, the value of trees in the ecosystem, what they do to us. So at the end of the lesson, they now see the value of trees, and so therefore they will have a heightened or increased appreciation of trees. Ay di mayroong pagbabago. So all of these changes that we want to happen or occur among our learners are described in the objectives. Desired learning outcomes. Ba't tayo napunta sa usapang desired learning outcomes? Kasi po sila ang mga products of the curriculum. They are the products of curriculum. Yung mga knowledge, mga skills, values, competencies, appreciations, attitudes na natututuhan ng mga bata sa atin. That's the product. We can also think of this as a student or learner who has learned or achieved the objective. Yan. Pwede rin ganun ang ating interpretation. The product of the curriculum is the ideal graduate. Hindi siya graduate na yung magmamarcha and then tatanggap ng diploma. Within the context of our discussion, mayroong classroom, mayroong subject, may teacher, may students. They are supposed to meet for 1 hour. Yung makakatapos ng 1 hour na learner who has achieved the objective within the context of that, para siyang ideal graduate, nakatapos siya ng period of time na mayroon siyang natututuhan. So, it is the product, no, yung kanyang skills and knowledge and values, they are all the products of that 1 hour engagement. So, in that sense, para siyang graduate. Graduate ng 1 oras. Ang ibig sabihin ay natapos niya yung time frame na siya ay may natutuhan. Yun ang product niya for that particular hour. Pwede ring 1 araw, at the end of the school day, maraming natutuhan yung bata sa schools, as a school at sa mga teachers. That's the product of the curriculum for that particular day as far as this particular student is concerned. Basta ang tinatawag na curriculum product, yung natututuhan ng mga bata. Or the learner itself, the learner himself or herself who has learned the knowledge. The learner who has achieved the objective. Siya ang produkto, siya ang product. No. We can approach curriculum that way. Pwede rin ganun ang tingin natin sa curriculum. Yung mga knowledge, mga skills, mga values, mga competencies na nakukuha, natututuhan, na-acquire ng mga bata. No? Yun, curriculum as a product. Okay. Products of learning are operationalized as knowledge, skills, and values. This is what I was saying just a while ago. This is what I am still saying. Products of learning are operationalized as knowledge, skills, and values. Ito yung tinatawag natin mga product, no? Curriculum product is expressed in the form of outcomes. Outcomes are the results. The product nga, no? The desired learning outcomes, the objectives. They are referred to as the achieved learning outcomes. So kapag ang bata ay natutong mag-multiply, that's the product. That is the result of teaching and learning for that particular day. If we are going to broaden that concept, halimbawa, buong kurso ang pag-uusapan natin, BE Ed, you will be the product of that program. Kayo ang pinaka-resulta Kayo ang pinakaprodukto. You will be the product of the whole process of teaching BE-Ed implemented by RSU. Yan. So kung titingnan natin yung mga syllabus, yung mga course outlines, yung mga CMO, where the subjects come from, where the recommendations come from, lahat yun ay content. Kasi nakalagay doon yung mga courses, mga topics to be covered for one semester, for 1 year, for one whole program, from first year to fourth year. Nakalagay doon. Halimbawa, prospectus. Content yon. Kasi yan ang pag-aaralan natin for the entire duration of the program. Magmula sa first year kayo hanggang makagraduate kayo ng fourth year. Hanggang makatapos. So, that's curriculum as content. Itong ginagawa naming mga teachers at yung ginagawa ninyo as students. We teach, you learn, we perform activities, we engage in different kinds of tasks, we initiate and you perform learning experiences. Itong lahat ng ginagawa natin ito as teachers and students, ito naman yung curriculum as a process. Curriculum as a product, kayo. The things that you will learn, the knowledge that you will acquire at the end of the program. Kapag graduate ninyo, lahat ng knowledge na nakuha nyo sa RSU, that's the product of our teaching. That's the product of your learning. That's the product of the total experience of your being a student of BE-Ed here at RSU. Yung mga competencies na makukuha nyo, that's the product. Pwede nating tingnan ang curriculum that way, no? We can approach curriculum like that. Pwedeng ganun ang ating tingin sa curriculum. Yung mga knowledge, skills, values, competencies, yung mga estudyante, lahat ng mga tutuhan niya, lahat ng produkto, lahat ng resulta ng ginagawa ng teachers at ng schools, ng universities, pwede natin siyang ituring na curriculum. We can look at curriculum that way. Yun ang sinasabing approaching curriculum as a product. Yan. Okay. So, we have just discussed the different approaches to curriculum, no? Again, no? Before we proceed to our new topic, let us first recapitulate. Ano nga ulit? Our topic is approaches to curriculum. As we have just seen, there are 3 ways by which we can approach curriculum. The first is, we can approach curriculum as content. We can also approach curriculum as process. And third, we can approach curriculum as product. When we approach curriculum as content, we see curriculum as a collection, a list, a body of topics, body of lessons, body of knowledge, usually listed on paper. Usually, nakalista yan sa mga papeles, sa mga lesson plans, sa mga syllabus, sa mga course outlines, sa mga CMO. We can look at curriculum that way. If we look or approach curriculum as a process, then what we will have in mind are the different teaching strategies, teaching techniques, teaching approaches that teachers use when they teach. If we approach curriculum as a process, what we will have in mind are the different activities, the different tasks, the different learning experiences that learners engage in, that learners participate in, that learners do or perform inside the classroom as they go through the different topics, lessons, and activities. So pagsamahin natin lahat ng ginagawa ng teachers at lahat ng ginagawa ng mga estudyante in relation to their schooling, in relation to their studies, That's curriculum as a process. Thirdly, when we approach curriculum as a product, then what we will have in mind are the knowledge, skills, values, and competencies, attitudes, changes in behavior, appreciations that the learners gain, learn, or acquire from the classroom, from the teacher, and from the experiences that they have inside the classroom. Yun ang curriculum as a product. So, please remember that, no? Curriculum can be approached as, we can approach it as content, we can approach it as process, we can approach it as product. However, we cannot separate any one of these three from the other two. Dahil sabi nga natin, curriculum is the totality, no? The sum of all content, resources, and experiences selected, implemented, and evaluated by selected, organized, and implemented by the school. So, to have a comprehensive, ang ingay ng chainsaw, ang ingay ng dulmar, to have a comprehensive concept, to have a complete concept or idea of the curriculum, pagsama-samahin natin yung tatlo. Curriculum has content, it has process, it has product. You put them all together, we get a curriculum. You see? So, ganun po. So, let's talk about curriculum development, processes, and models. Merong mga proseso, merong mga models that are used in curriculum development. Okay. As already mentioned before, curriculum development is a complex process, no? It entails or it involves processes and procedures. It involves a lot of details. It involves a lot of dynamics. And also, previously we have talked about changing for the better. Yan. Hindi basta change tayo. Curriculum development means changing for the better from an old state or situation, from an old condition to an improved one, to an enhanced one. Yan. Dapat mayroong progress, no? Mayroong pag-unlad, mayroong pag-asenso. Okay. So, usually it is linear. Ang ibig sabihin ng linear, yun nga, mayroon siyang process and it progresses, it advances. Hindi siya pabalik-balik na proseso. It is linear and follows a logical step-by-step fashion involving the following phases. Ito na po ngayon yung curriculum development process. It starts with curriculum planning, followed by curriculum design, followed by curriculum implementation, and it culminates with curriculum evaluation. So, linear yan. Hindi pwedeng irambule. Hindi pwedeng mag-umpisa ka ng curriculum evaluation. Wala ka pag tinuturo, magte-test ka na. Although there are examinations or tests that are given before the start of the lesson, no? Yung tinatawag nating diagnostic test. But that is special, a special kind of test. Dito, it is expected that we will teach first before we evaluate. Parang kayo, ano bang pinaka-final evaluation ninyo? Well, in your subjects, you have the final examination. Sa inyong kurso, meron kayong thesis, mayroong mga other requirements. And then finally, before you become a professional teacher, a licensed professional teacher, you have to take the BLEP and pass it. Kukuha ka ng exam, kailangan mo munang ipasa yun. That's the kind of evaluation that you will go through, no? Kukuha ka ng board licensure examination for professional teachers. Yan. So yun po, curriculum development process involves curriculum planning, followed by curriculum design, then curriculum implementation, and curriculum evaluation. Okay, let's talk about this. The first phase in curriculum development process is curriculum planning. Well, as the term implies, no, planning involves the putting in place, usually on paper, of what is intended to be done. What the teacher or the school, if it is a school that we are talking about, intends to do. Ano ba ang balak nilang gawin? No? These intentions are usually put down on paper. And these plans will eventually be translated, no? Meaning they will be implemented inside the classrooms so that the objectives, the desired learning outcomes will be achieved by the learners. Kapag nagplano at tumigil sa plano, walang mangyayari, puro plano. So the plan should be implemented. It should be executed, no? I-execute, i-implement, so that the objectives enumerated or listed in the plan will be achieved. Yan. Curriculum designing is the way curriculum is conceptualized to include the selection and organization of content. To some degree, curriculum designing is still part of planning. Kaya lang dito sa part na ito, dito na talaga nag-uumpisa yung actual implementation. This is the starting point, no? Hindi pa siya actual na teaching, but this is the starting point whereby we select and organize content, no? Pumipili na tayo dito ng mga topics, we organize them. So, curriculum designing is somewhere between curriculum planning and implementation, no? It is not really a part of planning, parang lampas na siyang konti sa curriculum planning phase, but it is not yet the final or the actual teaching and learning. So, somewhere in the middle. Kaya nga siya nakahiwalay na phase. During the designing phase, we organize content. Alam na natin ang ibig sabihin, when we say organizing content, we what do you call this? We sequence or we order the different topics. We organize the lessons into units, into chapters, into sections, so that they will be organized. There will be a system, no? It will become a systematic thing for the teacher to teach. Mahirap po magturo ng isang bagay na buhaghag, no? Yung hindi organized. Maguguluhan ang teacher, and the students will also end up being confused. So at the end of the lesson, pareho na silang lito. Lito ang teacher, lito na rin ang mga estudyante. A curriculum design will also include the resources to be utilized and the statement of intended learning outcomes. So doon na mismo makikita yung mga objectives niya, yung mga facilities or resources to be used, parang sa lesson plan, nakadetalye na, no? Doon naman sa curriculum planning, we start with the vision of the school, the mission statement, and the goals. Itong goals, hindi pa ito yung mga objectives, ha? Goals are very broad. Masyadong malawak yung mga goals compared with objectives. Pareho silang. Goals and objectives are both statements of purpose. They both describe what we intend to achieve. Maingay yung dolmar, sana hindi napipick up ng microphone, class. Sasakit ang tenga ninyo dito kapag napipick up ng microphone. Di naman ako pwedeng tumigil kasi hindi matatapos ito. Itong ating lecture video. Okay. What was I saying? Kalimutan ko yung aking sinasabi. I was saying something about learning outcomes, no? Ayun, kalimutan ko. So, during the designing process, we select, we organize the content, we assess, we select assessment procedure pala. Hindi pa ito yung actual assessment, but we determine, we select what kind of evaluation or what kind of assessment we're going to use. No? Parang ang nagle-lesson plan. Doon sa lesson plan natin, we describe how we will evaluate. But we have not yet evaluated. Kasi yung actual evaluation will happen, will occur, will take place during the actual class. No? So yan, ganyan ang nagde-design. We select, we organize the content or the lesson, and then we determine our mode of assessment or evaluation. Yung sinasabi ko kanina, nakalimutan ko, goals and objectives. Sorry, medyo matanda kasi. Goals and objectives are statements of purpose. They both describe what we intend to achieve or attain. Ang pagkakaiba sa goals at objectives, goals are broader, napakalawak nila. Objectives are specific. Objectives are the exact change in the learner that we want to happen. Yan, yung goals. Goals are generally for programs. Halimbawa, BA-Ed, mayroong mga goals ang BA-Ed as a program, as a discipline, as a degree. Goals yan. Yung mga objectives para na sa mga individual subjects. Halimbawa, curriculum development. I have my own objectives as a teacher of this subject. I have my own desired learning outcomes for you as my students in curriculum development. Objectives yon. Para lang yun sa curriculum development. Yung BA-Ed as a program, meron siyang goals for all students of BA-Ed. So ang goals at saka objectives are the same in the sense that they are both statements of purpose. They both describe what we want to achieve or attain. Ang pagkakaiba nga, yung kanilang scope, goals are very broad, objectives are specific. Yan. Halimbawa, one of the goals of BA-Ed is to produce graduates that are equipped with pedagogical content knowledge. Graduates who are equipped with different teaching strategies that they can use inside the classroom. Goal yon ng BA-Ed. And it goes for everybody. Whether you are taking up, whether you are, wala palang specialization sa sa BA-Ed. Basta estudyante ka ng BA-Ed, kasama ka sa goals na yon. Meaning, pagka-graduate mo ng BA-Ed, you are expected to have that knowledge. You know how to teach. You are equipped with pedagogical skills. Yun ang goal ng BA-Ed. You compare that with the objectives in curriculum development. One of the objectives here is for you, my dear students, to be able to explain what curriculum is. O, di ba, very specific yun compared with the goal of BA-Ed. Yan. Kaya tayo napunta doon, goals and objectives are included in the planning. So dito sa designing, nag-select na, nag-organize na ng content, including the plans of implementing the planned curriculum, including selection of the assessment procedure. So I hope nasusundan natin, no? Remember, we're talking about the curriculum development process. Usually, ang umpisa niyan ay curriculum planning. followed by curriculum designing, then curriculum implementing. Dito na talaga yung actual teaching and learning. It is here that the desired learning outcomes are actually achieved or attained. Learning becomes an active process. See, the teacher implements the plan. The teacher initiates the different tasks and activities and experiences he or she has prepared for the entire class. So yun, curriculum implementing. In other words, it is in this phase, it is in this stage that the plan is actually executed. So kung ang pag-uusapan naman natin ay curriculum of the entire BA program, the implementing process will refer to everything we do as teachers inside our classrooms. Everything you do as learners, as students of BA-Ed. Yun ang implementing phase. Dito na talaga tayo nagtuturo at natututo. Nagtuturo ang mga teachers, natututo ang mga estudyante. Teachers din natututo. Because we also learn from our students. Kami mga teachers, we learn from you. I hope you also learn from us. Okay, so yun, curriculum implementing. We will no longer deal with this for very long, no? Because we have been talking about curriculum implementation for some time already. So alam na natin yan. Basta pag sinabing curriculum implementation, actual teaching and learning inside the classroom or even inside the classroom, even outside the classroom or even outside the school, as long as the activity is sanctioned by the school is responsible for it and for the students. Yan. Curriculum evaluating. Yan. In the previous lecture video, I emphasized the importance of evaluation or assessment because it is in this phase that we know, it is in this phase that we determine, it is in this phase that we find out whether we have succeeded in teaching, whether the learners have learned. It is in this stage that we determine the extent to which the objectives have been attained based on evaluation or assessment results. Pwedeng sa formative, meaning during the process of learning, meron tayong mga formative tests, no? Halimbawa, pagkatapos ng lesson, meron tayong mga short quizzes. Ang lesson ay correct usage of verbs in the past tense. So, yun ang lesson eh. So after 1 hour, malapit nang matapos yung class, before we end our class today, I would like you to get, say, 1/2 or 1/4 piece of paper. We're going to have a short quiz. So 1 to 5, 10 items, formative test yon. Yung summative naman, Master of Learning, mga periodical tests yan, mga quarterly examinations, mga unit or chapter tests, yan. While doing the evaluation, we may also find out the different factors that have influenced learning. Halimbawa, mababa ang mga results. The teacher would ask the students, what happened, class? Why do you have very low scores? Nagturo naman ako ng maayos. I discussed the lesson very well. Sir, kasi po ay very uncomfortable kami. Our classroom is very hot. And we cannot concentrate on the lesson very well. We cannot concentrate and we cannot absorb what you are saying because we keep on fanning ourselves. We keep on perspiring. We are very uncomfortable. Kasi malaking influence sa learning yung physical environment, no? Pagkapanggaos ra buno itong mga anak. Very uncomfortable nga naman. hindi na natuto. So one one benefit of evaluation or assessment is that we determine the extent of learning, we determine the extent to which the objectives have been achieved or attained. Another one is we discover the different factors that influence or affect learning and also our teaching. Halimbawa, class, bakit ang baba ng scores nyo? Sir, kasi ang hina ng boses mo, hindi namin marinig masyado, hindi namin naintindihan tuloy. So, di bale, next meeting class, I will bring a very big speaker. So, doon manggagaling yung decisions mo for the next encounter, for the next class. Okay, so curriculum evaluation or assessment, needless to say, is a very important phase of curriculum process, in the curriculum process. Okay, let's continue. Curriculum development process models. Meron tayong mga, pag sinabing models, these are templates, no? These are fixed structures, fixed processes that we can follow or use as our example. Kaya nga tinawag siyang model, no? One of these is Ralph Tyler model and his 4 basic principles. Ralph Tyler's rationale, ang tawag dyan. It emphasizes, it puts importance on the planning phase. He presented 4 fundamental principles which are illustrated as answers to the following questions. Ralph Tyler's rationale, his philosophy for curriculum development is laid out as questions. It is presented as questions. The answer to those questions will show or demonstrate the school's philosophy pertaining to curriculum development. Here are the questions. Ay, meron pa pala doon. Okay. What education purposes should schools seek to attain? What education purposes should schools seek to attain? The answer to this question, halimbawa, tinanong ito sa isang eskwelahan. Hoy, RSU, what do you think should education purposes be? What education purposes should RSU seek to attain? The answer to that question that will come from RSU will reveal RSU's philosophy regarding the purposes or function of schools in the society. So, pag tinanong ang RSU, oy RSU, ano ba dapat ang mga educational purposes na dapat niyong ma-attain? Yung magiging sagot doon ng RSU, it will reveal RSU's philosophy pertaining to educational goals and objectives. Makikita yun sa vision and mission ng RSU. Yeah. What educational experiences can be provided that are likely to attain these purposes? This is Tyler's second question. So yung magiging sagot dito will reveal what we think of learning and teaching. Kasi nga itong mga educational experiences, this already refers to the actual teaching and learning. So, halimbawa, meron tayong stated purpose. How do we intend to achieve that? How do we plan to attain that? Yan. Ang magiging sagot sa tanong na yan, makikita doon kung ano yung ating idea regarding teaching and learning. How can these educational experiences be effectively organized? Tyler's third question will delves into the way we organize the curriculum. How do we organize the curriculum? How do we order? How do we sequence content? How do we divide it into chunks? Things like those. Paano natin siyang ino-organize? Halimbawa, sa BA Ed ulit, paano ba siyang na-organize? What subjects are for first year, first semester? What subjects are for first year, second semester? What subjects are for second year, first semesters? Hanggang makarating sa fourth year, hanggang makarating sa pinaka-last. This is an expression, this is an indication of our belief regarding how educational experiences should be organized so that our stated purpose, our stated goals will be achieved. And in the fourth phase, in the fourth question propounded by Tyler, he asks, how can we determine whether these purposes are being attained or not? The answer to this question will reveal a school's philosophy pertaining to evaluation or assessment. Kapag ang tinanong ay teacher, yung magiging sagot ng teacher sa tanong na ito will reveal the teacher's strategy for assessment and evaluation. So, Tyler's rationale, Tyler's process of curriculum development are laid out or presented in the form of questions. However, the answer to these questions will reveal or bring out a teacher's philosophy or a school's philosophy, pwedeng teacher, pwedeng school, pwedeng ang gobyerno. Depende sa kung ano ang ating pinag-uusapan. So, it will reveal philosophy pertaining to the purpose of education, the best way of achieving that purpose, how the educational experiences should be organized so that the best results, maximum or optimum results will be achieved. And then, how can this be best evaluated? How will we know if we have succeeded? Ano bang klaseng evaluation ang ating gagawin? So, again, these questions will reveal our philosophy pertaining to purpose, process, and educational processes, and ways of evaluating the curriculum. This is what we call Tyler's rationale. This is his model for curriculum development. See? Yeah. Tyler's model shows that in curriculum development, the following considerations should be made. Purposes of the school, educational experiences, organization of the experiences, evaluation of the experiences. Okay. Diba yung unang tanong niya, what purposes should schools seek to attain? Yung magiging sagot doon ng school, adi yun ang kanyang stated purpose, marireveal yung kanyang philosophy, marireveal yung kanyang belief pertaining to what schools should seek to attain. What goals, what objectives should schools seek to attain? Makikita doon isasagot niya doon sa tanong. Yan. And the same principle applies to the three remaining questions as already discussed in the previous slide. Yung kanyang model ay puros tanong. Pero yung magiging sagot ng isang teacher or ng isang school sa mga tanong na yon will reveal our philosophy. Pertaining to purposes, pertaining to educational experiences, pertaining to how those experiences should be organized, and pertaining to how those learning experiences should be evaluated. That is what we call Tyler's Rationale. Isa sa mga model ng curriculum development process. Hilda Taba's model, the Grassroots Approach. Okay. Yung kay Hilda Taba is an improvement over Tyler's model. Bakit siya naging improvement? Because in Tyler's model, we start from the top. Kumbaga if we are going to use our own educational system as example, the changes will come from above. Yung DepEd, magbababa ng kung ano-anong mga memorandum, kung ano-anong curriculum, and everybody below will follow. Itong kay Taba, this is the reverse of that process. We will start from the bottom. Sino bang nasa bottom? Di mga estudyante. Excuse me. So, Hilda Taba's 6 major steps in curriculum development is called the inverted model, no? Bakit nga ulit inverted? Because it starts from the bottom. Sino ang nasa bottom? Mga estudyante. So, Hilda Taba's model starts with diagnosis of the learner's needs and the expectations of the larger society. Ibig sabihin ni Hilda Taba, before making any plan, before designing anything, we should first know the needs of the learners and the expectations of the larger society. What are the needs of the learners? And what does the society want to happen with regards to these learners? What does the society expect from them? Anong gusto ng lipunan ba na mangyari sa mga batang ito? So that's Hilda Taba's inverted model. Step number 1, diagnosis of the learner's needs. An examination of what the learners need in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, values, mga competencies, mga attitudes. Ida-diagnose muna. Ano bang ginagawa pag nagda-diagnose? Ina-examine, no? Ina-examine parang doktor. And then, if we have already determined their needs and the expectations of the larger society, that is the time we formulate our learning objectives. If we are going to use the classroom as our example, this will be equivalent to a teacher examining or determining the needs of his or her pupils. Meron siyang gagawin para niya malaman kung ano ang kailangan ng mga estudyante niya. Hindi yung tingin ng tingin sa curriculum guide and then copy everything from the curriculum guide to the lesson plan and then, good morning class, this is our lesson for today. If we are going to follow Hilda Taba's model, we will start with the learners. What do they need in terms of knowledge? And then from the result of that examination, from the result of that diagnosis, the teacher will formulate her or his learning objectives. Gagawa na siya ng lesson plan, starting with the objectives. Okay, so after after diagnosing or after examining what the learners need, after formulating our objectives, we now select learning content. We now choose or determine what we are going to teach, what specific lesson, what specific topic. And then after that, we organize content. Organize ulit. What comes first, what comes next, what comes last. How do we divide the topic into chunks? How do we divide it into sections, into units, into chapters? Kung mahabang lesson, ganyan po ang nag-organize, no? So that teaching and learning will be smooth. No? Kasi pag hindi siya organized, buhaghag. The teacher and the learner will just end up being confused. Then, after that, meron ng topic, mag-isip na tayo ngayon. How can I best teach this topic? Selection of learning experiences. What activities, what tasks, what experiences will I prepare and initiate for my class so that they will learn this lesson, so that my objectives will be achieved. Yan. Pag nakapili na, isipin naman kung paano siyang ma-organize. How to implement, how to execute the experiences, how to make it happen inside the classroom. And then after that, usually, ano nga sa huli? Evaluation na naman tayo. So we determine what to evaluate and how to evaluate. Yan. This is Hilda Taba's inverted model of curriculum development. Okay? Here's another one from Galen Saylor and William Alexander. Galen Saylor and William Alexander's curriculum model has 4 steps. You know? And this is based on their concept of curriculum as a plan for providing sets of learning opportunities to achieve broad educational goals and related specific objectives for an identifiable population served by a single school center. Medyo mahaba yung kanilang definition, but it still comes down to content, learning experiences, resources, meron din kasama dyan. No? For them, curriculum is a plan. That is their view of the curriculum. And they propose these 4 steps in curriculum development process. First is we determine goals, objectives, and domains. Curriculum planners begin by specifying the major educational goals and the specific objectives they wish to accomplish. So, they begin with the goals. They begin with the objectives. Kung baga sa teacher ito, gagawa ng lesson plan, nandun kagad sa objectives. Saan ang gagaling yung mga objectives? Where do they come from? Usually, they come from curriculum guides, teacher's guide, or from previous lesson plans, things like those. Or our own decisions as teachers, no? Because as we have said before, teachers are also curricularists. Teachers are curriculum planners, curriculum implementors, and curriculum evaluators. So we can make our own decisions regarding the goals, objectives, and domains of the curriculum, particularly those that we intend to implement or execute inside our own classrooms. So pwedeng tayo ang mag-isip ng mga objectives. Well, of course, we do not deviate too far from what is indicated in the curriculum guide or in the CMO, in our case, no, sa mga SUCs. And it's very commonly done by teachers. Kasi there are times that we really have to simplify, we really have to modify. If we think that a lesson or objective is too complex, too broad, we simplify it. No? We divide it or we reduce it into smaller chunks so that it would be easier for our learners to absorb them, to learn them. Kumbaga sa pagkain class, isang malaking pizza, we divide it into smaller parts so that we can easily eat it. No? Kung malaking pizza, mukmuk na mo tanan, mayuyuog ka. So we divide it into smaller parts. We do the same thing to lessons. We do the same thing to curriculum. We divide it into smaller chunks so that it would be easier for the students to absorb them. Kasama yan dito sa part na ito. Goals, objectives, and domains are identified and chosen based on research findings, accreditation standards, and views of the different stakeholders. Wala dito yung learners, no, sa kanilang phase 1. Doon kay Hilda Taba, we really start with the learners. Mga nini, mga tuto, ano ba ang mga kailangan yung knowledge, skills, and values? yung sagot doon, magiging basihan in formulating the objectives. The objectives will determine the strategies, the approaches. So magtuturo na yung teacher, then evaluate. Dito sa kanila, objectives kaagad. Based on research, based on accreditation standards, based on the views of different stakeholders. Sa bagay, yung mga learners naman, they are one of our stakeholders. So, kasama pa rin pala. Konti lang yung kanilang participation. Then, after that, Galen Saylor also proposes curriculum designing. What happens here? There are guide questions that the teacher can, or curriculum implementers can use. Will the curriculum be designed along the lines of academic disciplines or according to student needs and interests or along themes? So, as curriculum designers, we will now decide whether the curriculum will go along the lines of academic disciplines. Itong academic disciplines na sinasabi, these are the different degrees or courses, the different subjects offered in schools and universities, no? Yun ang tinatawag na academic disciplines. We can organize content that way. Pwede ring along themes. Pag sinabing theme, merong big concept around which the lessons will revolve. Halimbawa, sa biology, the big concept is ecological protection and preservation. Yun ang big concept. All the lessons for that particular quarter will revolve around that. Ang ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga topics for that particular quarter will be all about ecological preservation and protection. Yun ang theme. We can organize topics that way, no? And then, curriculum implementation follows. So again, curriculum implementation involves, it involves the actual teaching and learning. This is where the curriculum is executed. No, it is in this phase that the curriculum, which was only a plan before on paper, is put to action. So, as teachers, curriculum implementation means everything we do as teachers inside the classroom. For you as students, curriculum implementation means everything you do as learners in connection with your studies, in connection with your schooling, in connection with your being a student. And what's the purpose? We all want the desired learning outcomes to be achieved or attained by the students. And then we have, usually may evaluation, di ba? Hindi pwedeng walang evaluation. The last step of the curriculum model is evaluation. A comprehensive evaluation using a variety of evaluation techniques is recommended. I understand that you have already taken up assessment courses, no? Yung aming mga regular students, assessment courses under Ma'am Grace Fradejas, no? This means that you are already familiar with the various assessment strategies available on the teacher's toolbox. Evaluation techniques that we can use in determining the extent to which the objectives have been achieved or attained. It is only through evaluation or assessment that we will know whether we have succeeded in attaining those objectives, whether our instruction has been effective. Through the evaluation process, curriculum planners and developers can determine whether or not the goals of the school and the objectives of instruction have been met. That is what I was saying just a while ago. It is only through evaluation and or assessment that we will know whether we have succeeded in achieving the purpose, the goals, and the objectives that we have described in the planning part. So, kailangan mayroon talagang evaluation. What we have seen, what we have observed in those three models, although they describe the phases or stages differently, all those three models undergo the same processes of curriculum planning, curriculum designing, curriculum implementing, and curriculum evaluating. Magkakaiba lang sila ng description, but if you really look at those models, they follow the same process. They start with curriculum planning, curriculum designing, curriculum implementing, and curriculum evaluating. These are the stages or phases of curriculum development process. Okay, so we have reached the end of the road once again. Our discussion of our second topic, no? Curriculum processes or approaches to curriculum ends here. I hope that you have learned something from our discussion. I hope that I have imparted something to you. I hope that you have learned from our lecture. I know that my discussions, my lectures are not really that complete, no, in terms of knowledge and understanding of the different topics that I have presented here. I would like to advise each and every one of you to augment your own learning by doing your own reading, by doing your own research. All of these topics that I have presented and discussed in this lecture video can be found in the internet. No? Nandyan lang yan, pakalat-kalat lang yan sa internet. Augment your own learning by doing your own reading. Basa kayo ng mga topics pertaining to curriculum development, curriculum processes, approaches, no? So that you will gain more knowledge regarding these topics. No? Okay? So, again, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I hope that you have learned something from this video. So, ingat lahat palagi. Goodbye for now. God bless everyone.